Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today we're diving into Mondelēz International's latest proxy statement, which is basically their annual report with a twist of shareholder democracy. Sounds dry? Well, get ready, because buried in this document are clues about where your favorite snacks are headed. Are they really making cocoa sustainable, or is it just a marketing ploy? We're going to find out. This report tells you all about their yearly shareholder meeting and the important decisions they'll be voting on. Think of it as the company's report card and a chance for shareholders to weigh in. So let's unwrap this thing. First up is the annual letter from the CEO, Dirk van de Put. He's saying 2024 was a strong year despite a challenging environment. He talks about growing profits, iconic brands like Oreo and Cadbury doing well. They also bought a Chinese pastry company and partnered with Lotus Bakeries, known for Biscoff cookies. Then he touches on sustainability, mentioning that about 90% of the cocoa they needed for chocolate was sourced through their Cocoa Life program. Also that they are working on reducing carbon emissions and packaging that is better for the environment. It all sounds pretty good. Next, we have a letter from Patrick T. Seward, the independent lead director. Basically, he's the head of the board to keep the company's CEO in check and provide strategy and direction. He says the board is equipped to create long-term value and is committed to sustainability. He also mentions that 2 directors are stepping down and they're bringing in a new one, Nancy McKinstry, who has experience in global business and information services. She is the chairman and chief executive officer of Wolters Kluwer NV. Next is a notice for the annual meeting. It will be on May 21st and shareholders can attend virtually. They will be voting on electing directors, approving executive pay, a new employee stock purchase plan, and also some shareholder proposals. This is just a quick overview of everything in the proxy statement. It gives you the highlights. Let's talk about the folks who want to sit on Mondelēz's board. They have nominated 10 people and each has background information. Their ages ranges from 58 to 69. They are mostly independent and they are elected for a term of 1 year. One of the nominees, Ertharin Cousin, has experience as the executive director of the United Nations World Food Programme. And of course, the new director, Nancy McKinstry, is on the list. She is the chairman and chief executive officer of Wolters Kluwer. This part explains how the company is run, what their policies are, and how the board is structured. They have an independent lead director, a majority independent board, director tenure limits, and annual elections for directors. They also have proxy access, meaning shareholders can nominate directors to the board. It also talks about regular shareholder engagement, board and committee self-assessments, stock ownership requirements for directors, and an anti-hedging policy preventing executives from betting against the company. Now let's move on to how the big bosses get paid. They use a mix of base salary, at-risk cash incentives based on performance and long-term stock awards. Their annual incentive plan is based 80% on financial measures like organic volume growth, revenue growth, gross profit growth, operating income growth, and free cash flow. 20% is based on strategic progress. Now, for the main event, they talk about the financial performance and how it compares to pay. We see in the tables information from the last 5 years from 2020 to 2024. The SEC demands that they disclose some calculations on executive pay relative to performance, TSR, and net income. It also looks at adjusted gross profit growth, how I'll run through what happened with the latest year in 2024. Scroll 54 of that section showed that CEO's summary compensation was $2,304, $723.03. His compensation actually paid was negative $4,140.66 because their stock depreciated. Average non-CEO executive compensation was $6,140. His compensation actually paid was negative $4,130. XDXI $20,530, $29,530. Mondelēz's total shareholder return was $121 in VAT and $22.80. These are relative numbers. Assuming you had $100 invested, their net income was $4,623 million and their adjusted gross profit growth was 5.1%. The company explains the differences were due to commodity costs like cocoa. This section describes the exact financial measures they use. They focus on things like revenue, profit, volume growth, adjusted earnings per share, and free cash flow, which tells us what the company values. Alright, who owns what? The document details how many shares each director and executive owns. It also lists the big shareholders like the Vanguard Group and BlackRock. BlackRock owns 7.6% of the Class A common stock. Okay, now we are moving into the part where stakeholders get to make their demands. Let's start with a proposal from the AFL-CIO Equity Index Funds, urging the board to do an independent assessment of their supply chain to make sure it is all in compliance with human rights. Mondelēz says they already do all of these things. They have a human rights policy, a code of conduct, supplier audits, and it would not be productive. This proposal from As You Sow wants Mondelez to report on how it's addressing flexible plastic packaging to reduce plastic pollution, which relates to their chip bags, candy wrappers, and other uses. Again, Mondelez claims they are already on it. They are working on new packaging, have reduction goals, and are a part of industry collaborations, meaning it is duplicative. Now they want a climate lobbying report to see whether they are aligning their political activities with their net zero emissions by 2050 goals. Mondelēz says it's got this handled. They make their lobbying activities public, and they also engage with a broad movement across the sector to reduce emissions. It would be duplicative to provide another report, they claim. Here they propose a third-party effectiveness report of their human rights policy in conflict zones, including Russia and Ukraine. Mondelēz responds by saying, wait, hold on, we are committed to human rights, have strong governance, scaled down business in Russia, helped Ukraine, and we have a HRDD report, so we don't need more. This item seeks a report on their recycled content claims so shareholders can verify the factual basis and legitimacy of all recycled content claims made on plastic packaging. Mondelēz says they follow well-established procedures and all on-pack claims are substantiated with legal, government, and regulatory affairs. A report is also unnecessary. Lastly, we have a note on when proposals and nominations for the next meeting are due to have. So what's the story here? Mondelēz is facing increasing pressure from shareholders to walk the walk on social and environmental responsibility. While they're reporting progress and pointing to existing programs, some shareholders want more proof, specifically a third-party verification. Is Mondelēz truly committed to sustainability or more interested in profits? The numbers tell a mixed story. Revenue and profits are up, but like every company, they are subject to commodity and supply chain costs. It seems their executive compensation is more based on the first narrative of profits. But on the other hand, it is true that they have shown efforts to take the environmental and social aspects into their business practices. They clearly want to be seen as doing the right thing. Given where the world is going and increasing regulations on this part of the company business, Mondelēz has to more seriously take this shareholders' concerns into account and try to be more transparent with their practices. What do you think? Should Mondelēz do more to address these concerns? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and of course, like, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next corporate deep dive.